All right, today we are doing, this is 10-3. 10-3, you're doing page 441, 1 through 45 odd. It's actually 440, not 441. That's where it starts, and it is 1 through 45 odd, okay? Dividing rational expressions. It's an expression because there's no equal sign. And we won't end up with any rational numbers. Okay, so let's talk about how do we divide a fraction, guys? What do we do? And we multiply by the reciprocal. So step one is we multiply by the reciprocal. Right? Multiply by the reciprocal. That's step one. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to flip the second fraction. That's the reciprocal. I'm multiplying. And then I am going on to, what would I do next, do you think? Same thing as yesterday. Go. Nope. But what is the general rule? No. We do not cross cancel now. Who can tell me what we do now? Eitan.
Would you divide by 2?
Nope. General rule. I don't want to know anything specific to what's in this. General rule. Yes.
You have to factor out the x.
We have general rule. Don't tell me specifics. Hello, Julia. We just factor all 4 parts, numerators and denominators, if we can. So we're going to factor all 4 parts. Now you can give me the specifics. So number 1 is multiply by the reciprocal. Number 2 is factor. And how would I factor this, Julia?
You would take out a 2 from the 2x minus 6.
And it becomes 2.
The quantity of x minus 3.
Good. Over 5 times 15. And how do I factor the bottom one?
It's a difference of squares, so it would be x minus 3 times the quantity of x plus 3.
Good. Now, what would be the last thing we do? Gracie.
Then you would have to multiply across.
Not yet.
Cross cancel.
We're going to cross cancel. We're going to reduce the fraction and then multiply. So I'm going to cross cancel. We have an x minus 3. We can take out a 5 and I'm left with 1. And here I'm left with 3. And then last step, we multiply. So that would simplify to, I'm going to move to the right. You're keeping it underneath. 3 times 2 is 6 over x plus 3. Okay? Preferably no equal signs and put the answer underneath. So remember, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Number 2, we're going to factor all parts of each fraction. And number 3, we're going to reduce. And number 4, we're going to multiply across. Okay? Questions? All right. All right, do you want to try the next one on your own? Okay, pause the recording, and you're going to follow those same rules. Okay, so what am I doing in the first one? Noah.
So first you multiply by the reciprocal, so it would be 4x squared minus 20x over 3x times 6x plus 30 over x squared minus 25.
Okay, next up. Keep going.
Okay. Then you factor it, so it becomes 4x times the quantity of x minus 5.
Okay, stop there. Keep going, Gracie.
Then you'd simplify the second fraction because you can't simplify the.
Okay, and that is?
Anymore. And you'd get 6 times the quantity of x plus 5. And then on the bottom, it's a difference of squares, so you get x plus 5 and times quantity of x minus 5.
Okay. And then let's go, Max.
Then you reduce. And
Okay.
You can cross cancel x minus 5 and x minus 5, and x plus 5 and x plus 5.
Good. And anything else?
A 3 or 3x and 6.
Okay. Anything else?
An x from the x and x from the 4.
Good. And so in the numerator, what are we left with?
8.
8. Voila. We getting the correct answers? Please try and study for this quiz tomorrow. I won't be here, but I need you to study for this quiz because the end of this chapter gets hard. Hard. You put it all together, it gets hard. People's grades drop in this chapter. The beginning of the chapter, super easy. So focus now and be ready for it to begin. Because remember, we're going to be adding with like denominators and then adding with unlike denominators. Then solving equations with unlike denominators. So focus now and long division of these kinds of trinomials, right? So just focus now. As we do it, it should be easy. Easy, 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 easy. Then you put it all together and it's like, my brain gets jumbled. So please focus on, make sure and study for this quiz.
Is it just 10-1
And
and 10-2?
10-3, what we're doing today. Yeah. All right, so that's nice and pretty and clean, and we end up with a pretty little 8. I had students requesting a nice question like that. Okay, so the next one, it gets a little bit trickier. Again, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Reciprocate it, right? Multiply it. And then we've got two sets of lead coefficient factoring. So I'm going to have to do this one. I'm going to do it off on the side. What multiplies to 6, I'm going to have x squared plus 7x plus 6. So what multiplies to 6 and adds to 7?
1 and 6.
6 and 1. So we're doing x plus 1, x plus 6. And then we're dividing by what?
2.
Remember, we have to divide. I'm still having people forgetting that. And so I get 2x plus 1 times x plus 4. That's what
Plus 3.
x plus 3. Sorry, it's the other one that's 4. That's what this numerator factors to. 2x plus 1 times x plus 3. And then what can we factor in the denominator?
You can divide by 5.
We're going to factor. We're not call it the factor of 5. And what am I left with?
3 plus x.
That's interesting. Okay, and now in the new denominator, okay, on top we have the 10x, and on the bottom we have more lead coefficient factoring. So what multiplies to -2 and what adds to -1? -2 and 1, and so I'm doing x squared minus x minus 2 is x plus 1 times x minus 2. And then we have to not forget to divide by, we multiplied by 2, so we're going to divide by 2. So this becomes 2x plus 1, 2x plus 1 times x minus 1. Did I do that right? Multiplied by 2. Yeah. Okay. Times x minus 1. You guys with me? And now we can cross cancel. Nicole, what am I cross canceling?
You can cross cancel a 5.
Okay, I'm left with 1 and a
2.
2. Okay, what else? Keep
You
going.
can multiply by -1.
Okay, why am I multiplying by -1?
You can cross out the x plus 2 and then x.
If I multiply it by -1, it becomes -3 -x. These are equivalent. We can just cross cancel now. They're both positive. It doesn't matter the order. They're both positive. It's not like one is positive, the other is negative.
The same order.
Huh? Well, not. Is 2 plus 3 the same as 3 plus 2? Yeah. So it doesn't matter. It's when it's x minus 3 and 3 minus x. In this case, this is positive, this is negative. When I want to make both opposite, that's when I do the negative one. Okay? Not just when they're indifferent. They're both positive, so it's the same quantity. Okay, now what else can I cross cancel? 2x plus 1. And what else is left? You might want to circle the stuff that's left because people forget it. So on the numerator, I'm left with a 2x, and the denominator, x minus 1. Can I cross cancel the x's? No, because you can't take a piece of a binomial. And that, my friends, is the simplified expression, not equation. So notice when I'm doing my lead coefficient factoring, it's almost like I take a third of my paper and I just leave it there for work. Like, this is the multiplying and dividing that you used to do in lower level math. You'd be doing double digit and triple digit off on the side. You're going to be factoring your lead coefficients off on the side. Can I erase it? What time do we go till?
57.
Oh, we got time. Sorry, recording. We got time. Okay, let's pause it and you try the next one. So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. And then what are we going to factor?
You can factor x times x plus 4, and then for its denominator, it would be x plus 3 times the quantity of x minus 3,
Good.
and then you can factor x plus 3, but you can take an x out of.
And then what am I left
x
with?
squared minus 16.
And then that can still go more. Julia, to what?
Times x minus, times x times the quantity x minus 4 times the quantity x plus 4.
Okay, and now?
And cancel the x plus 4 and the x plus 4.
Okay, what else?
The 2x plus 3.
Good.
And then you can take an x out of both of them.
And when you get rid of everything on top, what's left? I'm going to put it off to the side over here.
1.
A 1 over,
X minus 3 times the quantity of x.
and don't multiply that. Leave it alone. Don't multiply it back. It's more time out of your life. I want it factored. You did the work. I want to see it. Okay, questions? You ready to try another? Okay, here we go. Try number, you want to try both?
Yes.
Okay, pause the recording and try both. Let's check our work. Multiply by the reciprocal for number 4. And they factored out a GCF. I suppose as you start getting good at this, you can multiply by the reciprocal and factor at the same time. Yeah, you can do that. So notice they reciprocated it and they did the first level of factoring. And then I wouldn't go all the way. I don't know, maybe you can, but that, so if you do that much, if you were to go right to, if you're right about to go x minus 6, I got no problem with this. 2 times x plus 6, x minus 6. I think that's holding a lot of information in your head and you're likely to lose something. So I would definitely be cool with you guys. It's not a good practice, but if you're going to do this, I don't mind that right away. You factoring the first level of factoring. Do you understand? And when we have something like this, we put it over 1, right? Okay, and then I've got x minus 6 over 1 times x plus 3 over x plus 6 times x minus 6, and we have the 2. You run the risk when you do multiple steps in your head of losing information. So unless you're like a stellar student that's getting an A+, I would do I wouldn't do more than one step in your head like that, you know? But this is fine for you to just jump right down to that. Yes?
Is there a way to go back from your answer to check if you got it right without redoing the problem or what?
Not yet. When we get to the equations, there will be. The big risk that you run here of making mistakes, careless errors, Julia, is here. Let me show you. Okay, we're going to cross cancel. And here's the risk, right? We have x plus 3 over x plus 6. You lost the 2. People sometimes like those single digits get buried. You know? Sometimes they get buried. Yes. Let's check our answers. Shh. So don't forget, when you're left with a difference of squares here. And one thing I was just saying is you can factor at the same time as you reciprocate, but I wouldn't do 2 levels of factoring because you might lose it. So here we factored once, and then we had to factor that difference of squares a second time. And then when you simplified, you should have gotten x plus 3 over 2 times the quantity of x plus 6. The second one, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, and we can cross cancel our y minus 5s, and that's it. And we are left with 4 over y minus 4. This is just going to be straight factoring, you know, x marks the spot, x marks the spot, nothing fancy. Sometimes I just usually do it right next to it, and then I go right to the factoring. Got it? I'm going to skip this one. Okay, this one looks a little tricky, but it's really not. So step 1, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, right? And this is going to become what on the top? For the second fraction, what's it going to be?
Y over y plus 1.
No, do more than that. Y to the what?
Oh, y to the 6.
Over?
Y to the 6. Oh, no.
Not y to the 6.
Over y plus 1 to the 6.
Yes, the binomial is to the 6th power. Remember, if this were like 2y to the 6th, then the 2 would be to the 6th. I would do 2 to the 6th and y to the 6th, but there's a plus sign, so that's a binomial, and it's its own unit. So the whole thing has to be to the 6th. Do you understand? Do I have to multiply that out? No, sirree, Bob. Let's take 4 out there, and I'm left with 1. And we're going to take 4 more out here. And we are left with what?
Y plus 1.
Y plus 1 to the 2nd. What else can I take out? Go.
You can take out y squared,
And I'm left with 1. And here.
y to the 4th.
Okay. So we are left with in the numerator y to the 4th over y plus 1 squared. Okay, questions? Okay. Last one, let's go to, I think I'm going to, okay, let's go to this. Determining domain. So, here we go. We're going to multiply by our reciprocal. Do I determine the domain here
No.
in the beginning?
You just solve it first.
Not solve it, but factor it first. Not simplify, factor, just factor.
Oh, I thought you meant like before you do it.
The domain part, we have to factor first. First we factor, then domain. I guess we multiply by reciprocal. And then simplify, and then cross cancel, reduce. Okay, and this one was going to be what?
X squared is 2 times x plus
What? For this? What'd you say?
What?
What did you say it's going to be?
I said the quantity of minus 2 times the quantity
Yeah,
of x plus 5.
that's right. I thought you said x squared. X plus 2. I must have misheard you. So now we can cross cancel. Oh, wait. So what's my domain here? What is x not allowed to be? X is get an element of the reals, right? And x cannot equal what? 2, because that would give me a 0 there, and we can't have a 0 in the denominator. And what's going to give me a 0 here? Close it up. Now we can cross cancel. What are we cross canceling? And I have x cubed over 3 times x plus 2.
So you don't do it after you solve, or
No, because if I did it after, Julia, I'm losing one of my factors. I'm be missing this right here.
so after you factor.
After you factor, you determine domain. Go right to the domain. Does that make sense?
But there can be a 0 in the
Numerator, not the denominator. Yes.
Will there ever be when it's like x isn't an element of reals, or like if it?
Not for right now. Because the reals are rational or irrational. So right now we're not dealing with, at least in this chapter, we're not really dealing with imaginaries. Okay? Imaginary is like the square root of a negative. Okay? So we're not dealing with that right now. So that's why we're saying it's only part of the real number system, not the imaginary numbers. Okay? And that is the lesson.